Ambassador Jay stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall. The room was massive. It could hold 10,000 beings from across the galaxy. Today, every seat was filled. Representatives from 300 different species watched him with eyes of every color and shape. Some had no eyes at all. They sensed his presence through other means. Jay had served humanity for 30 years. He had gray hair now and lines on his face that showed his age. But his back was straight and his voice was strong. He had faced difficult moments before. He had negotiated treaties that seemed impossible. He had stopped wars with nothing but words. But something about today felt different. Something felt wrong. The Galactic Council sat on a raised platform at the front of the hall. 12 beings represented the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. The Valori delegate had skin like blue glass. The Kethrani representative floated in a tank of green liquid. The Mordax elder sat in shadow, its many eyes catching the light like small stars. High Chancellor Vus presided over them all. He was Valori, tall and thin, with long fingers that moved like water when he spoke. His voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the room. "We have gathered to discuss the matter of Earth," Vus said. "The matter of humanity." Jay felt cold spread through his chest. He had received no warning about this meeting. His staff had found out only hours ago. The official notice called it a routine review of humanity's membership status. But nothing about this felt routine. "Ambassador," Vos continued, "please step forward." Jay walked to the speaking platform. His shoes made soft sounds on the polished floor. The silence in the hall was heavy. It pressed against him from all sides. "The Council has concerns," Vos said. "Serious concerns about humanity's development." "What concerns?" Jay asked. His voice was calm. He had learned long ago to never show fear in this place. The Kethrani representative spoke next. Her name was Director Liss. Her words came through a translator device that gave her voice a mechanical quality. "In the past 50 years, humanity has advanced faster than any species in recorded history. Your technology grows at a rate that troubles us." "Growth is not a crime," Jay said. "No," Liss agreed. "But the direction of your growth concerns us greatly. Your weapons become stronger each year. Your ships become faster. Your reach extends further." Admiral Hana watched from the observation deck above the main floor. She wore the uniform of the United Earth Fleet. The medals on her chest represented 30 years of service. She had fought pirates in the outer colonies. She had protected trade routes from hostile species. She had believed in the Galactic Council and its promise of peace. Now she watched that belief crumble. "We have followed every law," Jay said. "We have honored every treaty. Humanity has been a loyal member of this council for 200 years. And yet," the Mordax elder spoke. His voice was like stones grinding together. "You built the Nova Station." Jay felt his heart skip. Nova Station was classified. Only a handful of people knew it existed. It was a research facility hidden in the asteroid belt. Scientists there worked on advanced energy systems. Nothing illegal. Nothing dangerous. But somehow the council knew. "How do you know about that?" Jay asked. "We know many things," Vos said. "We have watched humanity carefully. We have seen your secret projects, your hidden fleets, your weapons that you do not report. Those are defensive measures," Jay said. "We have enemies. The Syndicate raiders attacked our colonies last year. We lost 10,000 people. We have the right to protect ourselves." "The Council provides protection," Liss said. "The Council sent help 3 weeks after the attack," Jay replied. His voice grew harder. "Our people were dead long before your ships arrived." Silence fell over the hall. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably. They knew Jay spoke the truth. The council was slow. It debated while people died. Humanity had learned to rely on itself. Voss raised one long hand. This discussion does not help us. The council has already made its decision. Jay felt the cold in his chest turn to ice. What decision? Effective immediately. Earth is placed under quarantine. No human ship will leave your solar system. No alien ship will enter. All trade and communication with humanity will cease until the council determines that you no longer pose a threat. The words hit Jay like physical blows. He stood frozen. His mind refused to accept what he had heard. "You cannot do this," he said. "We can," Voss replied. "And we have." The vote was held this morning. It passed with a majority of 8-4. Admiral Hannah gripped the railing of the observation deck. Her knuckles turned white. She wanted to scream. She wanted to rush down to the floor and fight. But she forced herself to stay still. She forced herself to watch. "This is a death sentence," Jay said. "Earth depends on galactic trade. We import food from the Valori farms. We import medicine from Kathrani labs. Millions of our people will die. That is not our concern," the Mordak's elder said. Jay stared at the 12 beings on the platform. He had trusted them. He had believed in their wisdom. He had spent his life building connections between humanity and the stars. Now those connections were being cut. Humanity was being thrown away like garbage. "How long?" Jay asked. His voice was quiet now, defeated. "The quarantine has no set end date," Voss said. "It will last until humanity proves it can be trusted. Until you abandon your weapons. Until you submit to full council oversight." "You want us to become prisoners in our own home," Jay said. "We want peace," Voss replied. "Your kind threatens that peace. Your ambition. Your hunger. You grow too fast. You want too much. This is for the good of the galaxy." Jay looked around the hall. 300 species watched in silence. Some looked away when his eyes met theirs. Others stared back with cold indifference. A few showed guilt or pity, but none of them spoke. None of them stood to defend humanity. "We have all eyes here," Jay said. "The Torvan Confederacy. The Free Traders of Nexus. They will not accept this." "They already have," Voss said. "Every species present has agreed to enforce the quarantine. Any ship that helps humanity will be declared criminal. Any planet that shelters humans will face sanctions." Jay understood then. This was not a hasty decision. This had been planned for years. The council had worked in secret. They had made deals and promises. They had turned humanity's friends into enemies. Everything Jay had built was gone. Admiral Hannah activated her communication device. She sent a coded message to Fleet Command back on Earth. 3 words. "They betrayed us." "You will regret this," Jay said to the council. "Humanity has long memory. We do not forget those who harm us." "Is that a threat?" Voss asked. "It is a promise." The next hours passed in chaos. Human citizens across the galaxy were ordered to return to Earth immediately. They had 72 hours to leave. Ships scrambled to collect families and workers from 1,000 different worlds. Children cried as they were pulled away from alien friends they had known their whole lives. Businesses collapsed overnight. Lives built over generations were destroyed in moments. Admiral Hannah coordinated the evacuation from the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Dawn. She worked without rest. Her officers moved around her like ghosts, their faces pale with shock and anger. "Admiral," her second officer Minho said, "we have reports coming in from everywhere. Council ships are already moving into position around the solar system. They will have the blockade complete within 48 hours. "How many ships?" Hannah asked. "Over 5,000. Valori warships. Kathrani cruisers. Even some Mordak's dreadnoughts. It is the largest fleet ever assembled. Hannah closed her eyes. The United Earth Fleet had perhaps 300 combat-ready ships. They had no hope of breaking through such a force. Fighting would only give the Council an excuse to attack directly. "Pull all our ships back to Earth orbit," she ordered. "No provocations. No resistance. Get our people home safely." "Yes, Admiral." On Earth, the news spread fast. People watched in horror as their leaders explained what had happened. The Galactic Council had cast humanity out. Their allies had abandoned them. They were alone. Some reacted with fear. They stockpiled food and supplies. They built shelters and prepared for the worst. Others reacted with rage. Protests erupted in every major city. People burned council flags and demanded war. Ambassador J returned to Earth on the last diplomatic ship. He walked through the arrivals terminal in silence. Reporters shouted questions at him. Cameras flashed in his face. He ignored them all. He had no answers to give. He had failed. That night, he sat alone in his apartment and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere above those lights, alien ships were taking position. They were building a wall around humanity's home. A prison made of stars. His door chimed. He did not answer. It chimed again. Then again. "Come in," he finally said. Admiral Hannah entered. She still wore her uniform. Her eyes were red from exhaustion. "The evacuation is complete," she said. "All humans are back within the solar system. The Council has begun their blockade." Jay nodded slowly. "And so it begins. What do we do now?" Jay was silent for a long moment. Then he stood and walked to his window. The stars were barely visible through the light pollution. Somewhere out there, beings who had called themselves friends were now jailers. "We survive," Jay said. "We adapt. We grow. And then?" Jay turned to face her. Something had changed in his eyes. The defeat was gone. In its place was something harder. Something. 50 years passed. The galaxy moved on. Trade routes expanded. New species joined the Council. Old conflicts faded into memory. The matter of humanity became a footnote in history books. A cautionary tale told to young diplomats about the dangers of ambition. Director Liz had retired from the Kethrani delegation long ago. She now spent her days in a floating garden above her homeworld. The green waters of her pool reflected the clouds that drifted past. She was old now. Her translator struggled to keep up with her slowing thoughts. A young aide approached her. His scales were bright with youth. He held a data tablet in his webbed hands. "Director," he said, "you have a visitor." "I do not receive visitors," Liz replied. "He says he knew you from the old days. His name is Delegate Vorn. He served on the Mordax Council." Liz floated in silence for a moment. Vorn. Yes, she remembered him. He had been one of the 4 who voted against the quarantine. One of the few who had spoken against it. "Send him in." Vorn entered slowly. He was ancient now. His many eyes had dimmed with age. His body moved with difficulty, but his mind was still sharp. Liz could see it in the way he studied her. "Director," he said. His voice was weaker than she remembered. "Thank you for seeing me." "It has been many years," Liz said. "Why have you come?" Vorn settled onto a resting platform. His eyes turned toward the distant sun. "I come because I cannot stop thinking about them. The humans." Liz felt a cold sensation spread through her body. "That matter is closed." "It was closed 50 years ago. Is it?" Vorn asked. "Have you not wondered, Director? Have you not thought about what is happening behind that blockade?" "Nothing is happening," Liz said. "Our sensors detect no signals, no transmissions, no activity of any kind. The humans have either died out or returned to a primitive state. Either way, They are no longer a concern. And that does not trouble you? Liz was silent. The truth was, it did trouble her. It troubled her greatly. Humanity had been one of the most vocal species in the galaxy. They broadcast constantly. Music, news, entertainment, scientific data. Their signals had filled the communication channels for 2 centuries. Then, 50 years ago, they stopped. Completely. Absolutely. Not a single transmission had escaped the quarantine zone since the blockade began. What are you suggesting? Liz asked. I am suggesting that we made a mistake, Vorn said. A terrible mistake. And I fear we will pay for it. On the blockade line, Commander Reth stood on the bridge of the Valori warship, Infinite Grace. He had served on this patrol for 15 years. It was considered a peaceful assignment, an easy posting. Nothing ever happened at the edge of human space. The solar system floated in the darkness before them. He could see the distant sun, a small yellow star, unremarkable in every way. The blockade sensors showed no movement. No ships, no activity, just silence. Status report, Reth said. His sensor officer ran the standard scans. No change, Commander. Same as yesterday. Same as last year. Same as always. Reth nodded. He walked to the main viewing port and stared out at the human system. Somewhere in there, 8 billion people had once lived. Maybe they still did. Maybe they didn't. No one knew anymore. Do you ever wonder about them? He asked. His officer looked up. Sir, the humans. Do you ever wonder what happened to them? The officer shrugged. Not really, Commander. They were a threat. The Council removed the threat. That is all that matters. Reth said nothing. But in his mind, old memories stirred. He had met humans once, long ago, before the quarantine. He had traded with them at a border station. They had been strange creatures. Loud and emotional and confusing. But there had been something in their eyes. Something fierce. Something that refused to give up. He did not believe they had simply died. Back on the Council homeworld, High Chancellor Voss addressed the Grand Assembly. He was older now. His blue skin had faded to pale gray. But he still held power. He still controlled the Council. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the human quarantine, he said. 50 years of peace. 50 years of stability. Our decision to isolate that dangerous species has been proven correct. They have fallen silent. They have faded from existence. The threat they posed is gone. The Assembly applauded. Representatives from 300 species celebrated the anniversary. They had convinced themselves that they had done the right thing, that they had saved the galaxy from a dangerous enemy. But not everyone celebrated. In a quiet corner of the Assembly, Ambassador Nira of the Torvan Confederacy sat in silence. Her people had been among humanity's closest allies. They had voted against the quarantine. They had argued for mercy. They had been ignored. She was young. Too young to remember the humans herself. But her grandmother had told her stories. Stories of strange, warm-blooded creatures who laughed easily and fought fiercely, who built great things and dreamed impossible dreams, who had reached out to the stars with such hope. Do you think they are really gone? She asked her aide. The aide looked uncomfortable. The official position is that they have either died out or regressed to a pre-technological state. Without supplies from the galaxy, they could not maintain their civilization. That is the official position, Nira said. I asked what you think. The aide was silent for a long moment. Then he leaned closer and spoke in a low voice. My grandfather served on a trade ship that visited Earth once. He always said that humans were the most stubborn creatures he had ever met. He said they never gave up, never surrendered, never stopped fighting, and he said that if the galaxy ever made an enemy of humanity, they would regret it for 1,000 years. Nira nodded slowly. She looked out across the celebrating assembly. These beings thought they had won. They thought they had solved the human problem. But deep in her heart, she felt a growing fear. Silence was not surrender. Sometimes silence was preparation. In the quarantine zone, the blockade ships continued their endless patrol. They circled the solar system like sharks around a dying whale. Their sensors probed constantly. Their weapons stayed ready. But nothing ever happened. Years passed. Decades. The crews changed. New generations took over from old. The blockade became a tradition. A duty passed from parent to child. No one remembered why they were there anymore. They just knew that they had to stay. Commander Reth retired. Then he died. His children took his place on the patrol ships. Then his grandchildren. The story of why the humans were dangerous became legend. Then myth. Then barely remembered history. On the Council homeworld, new leaders rose to power. High Chancellor Voss passed away. Others took his seat. The decision to quarantine humanity was discussed less and less. It became settled fact, unchangeable, unquestionable. But somewhere in the vast archives of the galaxy, records remained. Old recordings of human broadcasts. Videos of their cities, their art, their music. Some beings still watched these recordings. They found them fascinating, disturbing, strangely beautiful. Abaway, young Kathrani scholar named Jis, spent years studying these archives. She became an expert on human culture. She wrote papers about their history, their wars, their achievements, their strange, contradictory nature. They were remarkable, she said in a lecture, capable of both terrible violence and incredible kindness. They could destroy everything they built, then rebuild it even greater. They were the most adaptive species we ever encountered. But they are gone now, a student said. GSS paused. She looked at the image of Earth floating on her display screen. A blue and green world. Beautiful even from space. Are they? She asked. We have not seen inside that system for 50 years. We do not know what is happening there. We only know that they are silent. What difference does it make? Jis thought about the question. What difference indeed? The blockade was impenetrable. 5,000 ships guarded every approach. Nothing could get in or out. The humans, if any survived, were trapped forever. Perhaps no difference, she finally said. But I cannot help wondering. What are they doing in there? What are they building? What are they becoming? She had no answers. No one did. On the 50th anniversary of the quarantine, something strange happened. It was small. So small that most sensors did not even register it. But the old-timers on the blockade line noticed. For just a moment, a single pulse of energy emerged from the solar system. It was not a message. It was not a signal. It was just a pulse. Like a heartbeat. Like a deep breath. Like something waking up. What was that? A young officer asked. The senior commander studied his screens. The pulse was gone now. The silence had returned. Everything was normal again. Probably just solar activity, he said. Nothing to worry about. But he made a note in his log. And he sent a quiet message to Council Intelligence. Something had moved in the human system. After 50 years of absolute stillness, something had moved. The Council received the report. They discussed it briefly. They concluded it was meaningless. A sensor glitch. A natural phenomenon. Nothing more. They were wrong. Deep inside the solar system, hidden from all sensors, something vast was stirring. 50 years of work was finally complete. 50 years of planning, building, waiting. The silence had not been death. It had been transformation. Admiral Hana had died 10 years ago. But her vision lived on. Ambassador J had passed away even earlier. But his words still echoed in the halls of power. They had planted seeds. Seeds that had grown into something unimaginable. A new generation led humanity now. They had been children when the quarantine began. They had grown. The morning began like any other on the blockade line. Ships circled in their endless patrol. Sensors scanned empty space. Crews went about their duties with the boredom of routine. Nothing ever happened here. Nothing had happened for 50 years. Then everything changed. "Commander!" the sensor officer shouted. "We have movement." Commander Kai ran to the display screen. He was young, barely 30 cycles old. He had never seen anything unusual on this posting. His father had served here. His grandfather, too. They had all reported the same thing. Silence. Endless silence. But now the screens were alive with data. "What am I looking at?" Kai demanded. "A ship, sir." A single vessel. It just appeared at the edge of the quarantine zone. Appeared? From where? From inside, sir. It came from inside the solar system. Kai felt his blood turn cold. Nothing was supposed to come from inside. The humans were gone. Dead or primitive. That was what everyone said. That was what everyone believed. "Hail them," he ordered. "All frequencies. Demand identification." The communication officer sent the message. Seconds passed. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was calm and clear, and speaking perfect galactic standard. "This is Captain Tay of the human vessel Herald. I am carrying a message for the Galactic Council. I request safe passage to the assembly hall." Kai stared at his screen. The ship that floated before him was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was small, maybe a quarter the size of his patrol cruiser, but its design was elegant, smooth, advanced. It looked like nothing in the Council database. "Human vessel," Kai said carefully. "You are in violation of the quarantine. You must return to your solar system immediately." "I cannot do that, Commander," Captain Tay replied. "My mission is to deliver a message. I will deliver it. I will open fire if you do not turn back." "You may try." Kai gave the order. His ship launched 3 missiles at the Herald. They were the finest weapons the Valori military produced. Fast, accurate, and powerful enough to destroy any ship of that size. The missiles never reached their target. Something happened. Kai could not explain what. One moment, the missiles were flying straight at the human vessel. The next moment they were gone. Not destroyed. Not deflected. Simply gone. As if they had never existed. "What happened?" Kai shouted. "I do not know, sir." The missiles just disappeared. The Herald continued forward. It passed Kai's ship without slowing. It passed the entire blockade line without stopping. 5,000 ships watched helplessly as the tiny human vessel flew past them. Other commanders tried to stop it. They fired weapons. They launched fighters. They attempted ramming maneuvers. Nothing worked. The Herald seemed to move through space in ways that made no sense. Ships would fire it where it was, but it was already somewhere else. Fighters would chase it, but they could never catch up. It was like trying to catch smoke with your hands. "Send a message to the Council," Kai ordered. "Tell them a human ship has breached the blockade. Tell them it is heading for the homeworld. Tell them to prepare." The message raced ahead at faster than light speed. It reached the Council homeworld hours before the Herald arrived. But those hours were not enough. How do you prepare for something you do not understand? Chancellor Novis received the news in his private chambers. He was the 3rd Chancellor since Voss. He had never met a human. He had grown up believing they were extinct. "This must be some kind of trick," he said. "A rogue ship. Pirates using old human technology. The ship matches no known design," his advisor said. And the voice. We confirmed it. The being speaking is biologically human. Novi's felt fear creep into his hearts. Humans. After all these years. After all the assurances. They were still alive. Still out there. And now one was coming here. Alert the defense fleet. Surround the planet. Nothing gets through. The defense fleet mobilized. 300 warships took position around the Council homeworld. They formed a wall of metal and firepower that nothing should have been able to penetrate. The Herald arrived. 6 hours later, Captain Tay brought his ship to a stop at the edge of the defensive formation. He made no aggressive moves. He simply waited. Human vessel, the defense commander broadcast. You are surrounded. Surrender now, and you will not be harmed. I am not here to fight, Tay replied. I am here to deliver a message. Allow me to land, and I will present it to the Council directly. Then I will leave peacefully. That is not acceptable. You must surrender. I cannot do that. The defense commander ordered an attack. This time, the response was different. The Herald did not simply dodge or disappear. Instead, it moved. It moved so fast that observers later disagreed about what they had seen. In 3 seconds, the Herald flew through the entire defense fleet. It did not fire a single shot. It did not destroy a single ship. But every vessel it passed experienced a complete system failure. Engines stopped. Weapons went offline. Life support flickered. 300 ships were left drifting helplessly in space. Not dead. Not destroyed. Just disabled. Completely and utterly disabled. The Herald descended to the planet's surface and landed in the plaza outside the Grand Assembly Hall. Emergency response teams surrounded it. Soldiers aimed weapons at its hull. The entire council watched from inside the building, their faces pressed against windows, their hearts racing with fear. The ship's door opened. Captain Tay stepped out. He was young, maybe 30 by human standards. He wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations. His hair was cut short. His eyes were dark and calm. He carried nothing except a small data crystal in his right hand. He walked toward the assembly hall. Soldiers shouted at him to stop. He ignored them. They fired warning shots. He kept walking. They tried to tackle him, but something pushed them back. Something invisible and gentle, but absolutely unstoppable. The doors of the assembly hall opened. Tay walked inside. 300 species watched in stunned silence as a human walked among them for the first time in 50 years. Many had never seen one in person. They stared at his strange body. 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin, no scales, no shells, no extra limbs. He looked so fragile, so ordinary. But there was nothing ordinary about the way he moved. Nothing ordinary about the quiet confidence in his eyes. Tay stopped in the center of the hall, directly below the council platform. High Chancellor Novis looked down at him with a mixture of fear and anger. You have violated the quarantine, Novis said. You have attacked our ships. You have invaded our homeworld. These are acts of war. We have attacked nothing, Tay replied. We have killed no one. We have destroyed nothing. We disabled your ships temporarily. They will recover within hours. We have come only to deliver a message. What message could you possibly have that would justify this intrusion? Tay raised the data crystal. 50 years ago, this council voted to quarantine humanity, to cut us off from the galaxy, to leave us to die. 4 of your members voted against that decision. The rest of you supported it. He looked around the hall. His eyes moved from species to species. Many looked away when his gaze found them. You thought you were removing a threat. You thought we would wither and fade. You thought that by the time anyone remembered us, there would be nothing left to remember. You were a threat, Novi said. You grew too fast. Your weapons. Our weapons were toys, Tay interrupted. Compared to what we have now, they were children's playthings. 50 years of isolation taught us many things, Chancellor. It taught us that we could only rely on ourselves. It taught us that the galaxy would never accept us. And it taught us to focus all of our energy, all of our intelligence, all of our creativity on one single goal. What goal? Tay smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Survival. At any cost. By any means. We have spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Building. Advancing. Evolving. You were right to fear us, Chancellor. You were right to see our potential. But you made one mistake. What mistake? You gave us a reason to use that potential. You gave us a purpose. You united all of humanity against a common enemy. You made us stronger than we ever could have become on our own. Novi's felt his throat go dry. What do you want? We want nothing from you. Not trade. Not membership. Not alliance. We are not here to negotiate or bargain or threaten. We are here simply to deliver a message. Tay placed the data crystal on the floor. It activated automatically. Holographic images filled the air above it. Images of ships. Thousands of ships. Millions of ships. Ships that made the Herald look primitive. Ships that dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. This is the human fleet, Tay said. Every vessel you see is currently positioned just outside your sensor range. They could reach any point in Council space within hours. They could destroy every ship you have. Every planet. Every station. Every trace of your civilizations. The assembly erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted and screamed. Some tried to flee. Others called for immediate surrender. Novi's pounded his platform, demanding order. But we are not here to destroy you, Tay continued, his voice cutting through the noise. We are not here for revenge. We are not here for war. Silence fell slowly over the hall. Every being turned to look at the human. And why are you here? Novi's asked. We are here to make sure you never forget what you did. We are here to make sure that for the rest of your history, you remember that you betrayed us, that you abandoned. The galaxy held its breath. News of the human return spread faster than any signal ever had. Within hours, every inhabited world knew. Every species had heard. The beings that the Council had quarantined 50 years ago had returned. And they had returned with power beyond imagination. Fleet Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of the flagship, Eternal Dawn. The name was old. It came from Admiral Hanna's ship, the one that had watched helplessly as the blockade formed around Earth. Now that name belonged to a vessel that made the original look like a child's toy. The Eternal Dawn was massive. It stretched for kilometers in every direction. Its hull was made of materials that did not exist 50 years ago. Its weapons could crack planets. Its engines could cross the galaxy in days. And it was just one ship among millions. Status report, Yuna ordered. General Do-Yoon stepped forward. He was her second in command. His family had served in the fleet for 3 generations. His grandfather had been one of the engineers who started the rebuilding after the quarantine began. All fleets are in position, he said. The Council worlds are completely surrounded. We have achieved total strategic control of known space. Casualties? None, Commander. On either side. The Council forces surrendered without resistance once they saw our numbers. Yuna nodded. That had been the plan. Overwhelming force supplied so quickly and completely that resistance became pointless. No destruction. No death. Just absolute, undeniable power demonstrated beyond any possibility of doubt. And the Council itself? In emergency session, They have been debating for 6 hours now. Many are calling for unconditional surrender. Others want to negotiate. A few are suggesting they might still be able to fight. Una smiled slightly. Let them debate. Let them talk. We have time. On the council homeworld, the Grand Assembly had become a place of chaos. Representatives screamed at each other. Accusations flew in every direction. Some blamed the current leadership for not preparing. Others blamed the old leaders who had ordered the quarantine in the first place. A few tried to find anyone who might have connections to humans, hoping to use them as negotiators. High Chancellor Novis tried to maintain order, but his authority had crumbled. He had promised safety. He had promised that the humans were gone. He had been completely, catastrophically wrong. Ambassador Nera of the Torvan Confederacy watched from her seat with quiet satisfaction. Her people had warned about this. They had voted against the quarantine. They had tried to maintain secret sympathy for humanity, even as the blockade tightened. Now she wondered if that sympathy would help them. "Chancellor," she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "Perhaps we should ask what the humans actually want. We have been assuming they want destruction, but the message they delivered suggested otherwise." Novis looked at her with desperate hope. "What do you mean?" "The human captain said they were not here for war. He said they wanted us to remember. Perhaps we should ask them to explain. How? How do we contact them?" As if in answer, every screen in the assembly hall flickered. The human symbol appeared, a simple image of Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Then Fleet Commander Una's face filled the displays. She looked young. Younger than most of the council members expected. Her hair was pulled back tightly. Her uniform was simple gray, like Captain Tay's. Her eyes were dark and deep, and showed no emotion at all. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said. "My name is Una. I command the human fleet. I understand you have been debating how to respond to our presence. Allow me to simplify your decision." Novis stepped forward. "Commander, please. We are prepared to discuss terms. You can offer nothing we need," Una interrupted. "We do not want your resources. We do not want your technology. We do not want your membership or your alliance. We have built our own civilization. It is stronger than anything you have. It is better than anything you imagined. We do not need you. Then what do you want?" Novis pleaded. "I told you. We want you to remember." Una touched the control panel. The image behind her changed. It showed Earth as it had looked 50 years ago. Beautiful, vibrant, full of life. Then it showed the blockade forming. The ships circling like predators. The isolation beginning. For 50 years, you tried to kill us slowly. You cut off our food supplies. You cut off our medicine. You cut off our hope. Millions of our people died in the first decade. Children starved. Sick people died from diseases that your medicine could have cured in days. Families were torn apart, as some chose to ration food while others chose to fight. The images changed again. They showed suffering. Real suffering. Cities falling into chaos. People crying over graves. Leaders making impossible choices about who would live and who would die. "This is what you did to us," Una said. "This is what your fear created. This is what your betrayal caused." Silence filled the assembly hall. Every being watched in horror. Many had never considered what the quarantine actually meant for the humans trapped inside. They had thought of it as a political decision, a strategic move. They had not thought of the children who starve. "And yet we survived," Una continued. "We adapted. We changed. We found new ways to grow food, new ways to make medicine, new ways to generate power. We turned inward and rebuilt everything from the ground up. We became something new." The image changed again. Now it showed Earth as it looked today. The planet was transformed. Great structures rose from the surface. Ships filled the orbital space. It was not the same world. It was something greater. We did not just survive. We thrived. We took the darkness you forced upon us and turned it into light. We took the isolation you imposed and turned it into strength. You tried to destroy us, and instead you made us unbreakable. Fleet Commander Yuna leaned forward. Her eyes seemed to pierce through the screens, reaching directly into the heart of every being watching. Now we could destroy you. We have the power. We have the right. Every one of you who supported that quarantine deserves to feel what our people felt. The fear, the hunger, the despair, the death. She paused. The silence stretched on. But we will not do that. Destruction is not our way. It was never our way. Even before the quarantine, when you feared our weapons, we never used them in conquest. We built them for defense. We built them to protect. That is who we were. That is who we still are. Then what will you do? Novi's asked out why Yuna stood tall. She looked directly into the camera. We will give you a single command. One word, and that word will be your punishment and your salvation. It will haunt you for the rest of your history. It will change everything you believe about yourselves and about us. Every being in the galaxy waited. Every screen, every speaker, every communication device was tuned to this moment. The human fleet surrounded the council worlds. Millions of ships hung in space like silent judgment. The command is this: remember. Yuna let the word hang in the air. Remember what you did. Remember the choice you made. Remember the 8 billion people you tried to murder through neglect. Remember the children who died crying for food you could have provided. Remember the families you destroyed. Her voice grew harder, colder. Remember that you called yourselves civilized while committing slow genocide. Remember that you convinced yourselves you were protecting the galaxy while you were actually just protecting your power. Remember that you feared us not because we were dangerous, but because we challenged your comfortable control of everything. She stepped back from the camera. We will not destroy you. We will not conquer you. We will not rule you. We will simply exist. We will trade with anyone who wishes to trade fairly. We will ally with anyone who proves worthy of trust. We will share our technology with anyone who asks respectfully. But every time you see us, every time you interact with us, every time you pass a human ship or visit a human world or meet a human citizen, you will remember. You will remember what you did. You will remember that we survived. And you will wonder. Wonder what? Novi's asked. You will wonder what we might have been if you had treated us as friends instead of threats. You will wonder what we might have given you if you had welcomed us instead of trying to destroy us. You will wonder what miracles we might have shared if you had shown us kindness instead of betrayal. Yuna's eyes were cold. That wondering will be your true punishment. Not death. Not destruction. But the eternal knowledge that you could have had everything, and you threw it away because you were afraid. She reached toward the control panel. The human fleet will withdraw to our own space. The blockade ships that surrounded us for 50 years are now free to leave. We will not stop them. We will not harm them. We ask only that they carry our message back to their homeworlds. And what message is that? Novi's asked. Remember, the screens went dark. The human fleet began to move. Millions of ships turned as one, flowing like a great river of stars back toward the solar system. They had been imprisoned in for half a century. They did not fire a single shot. They did not destroy a single station. They simply left. And in their wake, they left something far more devastating than any weapon could have created. They left doubt. They left guilt. They left a terrible, inescapable knowledge that the galaxy had wronged them, and they had risen above it, and they would never, ever let anyone forget. In the Grand Assembly Hall, representatives wept. Some cried from relief. Others cried from shame. High Chancellor Novis sat down heavily on his platform and stared at nothing. The 10 years passed after the human return. The galaxy changed in ways no one had predicted. Not through war, not through conquest, not through any of the violence that the Council had feared for so long. It changed through something far more powerful. It changed through memory. High Chancellor Novis had resigned within months of the human withdrawal. He could not bear the weight of what his predecessors had done. The shame crushed him. He spent his remaining years writing apologies that no one wanted to read. The Council itself transformed. Many of the old species withdrew from galactic politics entirely. They could not face the humans. They could not face what they had supported. New species took their places. Species that had been too young or too distant to vote on the quarantine. Species that looked at the old powers with new eyes. Ambassador Nera of the Torvan Confederacy became the first new High Chancellor from a species that had opposed the quarantine. Her first official act was to formally apologize to humanity on behalf of the entire Council. Her first official act was to formally apologize to humanity on behalf of the entire Council. The newest official act was Vigia or Sound Solish. Was to formally apologize to humanity. Her second act was to open full diplomatic relations with Earth. The humans accepted her apology with quiet grace. They did not celebrate. They did not gloat. They simply nodded and moved forward. That restraint frightened the galaxy more than any threat could have. On Earth, life had returned to something like normal. Trade routes opened. Alien visitors came to see the world that had survived the impossible. They walked through cities that had been rebuilt from the ground up. They marveled at technology that advanced 1,000 years in just 50. They met humans who showed no anger, no bitterness, no desire for revenge. That confused them most of all. Scholar Jis, the Kithrani academic who had studied human history, finally visited Earth herself. She was old now. Her scales faded to pale gray, but her mind was still sharp. She wanted to understand. She needed to understand. A young woman named Yunji served as her guide. She was a cultural liaison, one of many humans who helped alien visitors navigate the strange new relationship between Earth and the stars. Why do you not hate us? Jis asked as they walked through a park in the capital city. Children played nearby. Families had picnics. Everything looked so peaceful. Unji considered the question. Some of us do. Hate is a natural response to what happened. My grandmother lost her parents in the food riots of the first decade. She carries that pain still, but not you? I was born after the darkest years. I grew up in a world that was rebuilding. My teachers taught me what happened, but they also taught me that we had a choice. We could spend our lives looking backward, nursing our wounds, planning revenge. Or we could spend them looking forward, building something better, proving that we were more than what others tried to make us. Jis stopped walking. She looked at the young human with amazement. We tried to kill you all, she said. My people voted for that. My species supported the quarantine. How can you speak to me without anger? Yunji smiled. It was a warm smile, without any trace of bitterness. Because you are here. You came to learn. You came to understand. You did not hide from what your people did. That takes courage. That deserves respect. Jis felt something strange. A warmth in her heart. An emotion she had not felt in years. I am sorry, she said. For everything. For what my species did. For what I failed to prevent. I know, Yunji replied. We all know. That is why we do not hate you. We know that you remember. That you carry the weight. That you will never forget what happened. That is punishment enough. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Alien visitors came to Earth. They saw what humanity had built. They felt the weight of their species' guilt. And they left changed. Not broken. Not destroyed. Just changed. The remembering spread. It became part of galactic culture. Every species taught its children about the human quarantine. Not as a distant historical event, but as a living lesson. A reminder of what fear and arrogance could lead to. A warning about the cost of betrayal. Human ships became common throughout known space. They traded fairly. They shared technology generously. They made friends easily. But everyone who dealt with them felt it. That quiet awareness. That unspoken knowledge. We tried to destroy you. You survived. You forgave us. But you will never let us forget. Fleet Commander Yuna retired from active service. She had become a legend, the face of human return, the voice that had spoken the single word that changed everything. But she had no interest in fame. She settled on a small island on Earth and spent her days fishing and gardening. Journalists occasionally found her. They asked the same questions over and over. Did she regret not destroying the Council? Did she think humanity should have taken revenge? Did she believe the galaxy had truly learned its lesson? Her answer was always the same. We learned something during those 50 years of isolation. We learned that destruction is easy. Anyone can destroy. It takes no special skill. It proves nothing. But building, creating, forgiving, those are hard. Those require strength that destruction never could. She would look out at the ocean when she spoke. Her eyes would grow distant. We could have burned the galaxy. We had the power. Some of our people wanted to. They had lost family. They had suffered. They had every right to want revenge. But we chose differently. We chose to build instead of burn. We chose to prove ourselves through creation instead of destruction. And the command? Remember? That was the real victory. Not military. Not technological. Moral. We showed the galaxy that we were better than what they tried to make us. We showed them that we could be hurt, betrayed, nearly destroyed, and still rise above. We showed them that humanity's greatest strength was never our weapons or our technology or our numbers. It was our ability to endure, to adapt, to grow, to forgive without forgetting. The years continued to pass. The galaxy slowly healed. New alliances formed. Old enemies became friends. The Council evolved into something genuinely fair, genuinely representative, genuinely committed to justice. But the memory remained. Every species taught its children. Every historian recorded the lesson. Every diplomat remembered. The word that humanity had spoken echoed through generations. Remember the cost of betrayal. Remember the strength of the betrayed. Remember that fear and arrogance led to the greatest shame in galactic history. Remember that the species you tried to destroy became the species that taught you mercy. On the anniversary of the quarantine's end, a new tradition began. Representatives from every species gathered at the Grand Assembly Hall. They spoke the names of the human children who had died during the isolation. Every name. It took days, but they spoke them all. And at the end, when the last name was spoken, they said one word together. All 300 species. All their representatives. All their people. One word, spoken across the stars. Remember. Humanity watched these ceremonies with quiet appreciation. They did not demand them. They did not enforce them. They simply allowed them. And that allowance, that grace, that forgiveness that came without forgetting, became the foundation of a new galactic era. An era where species thought twice before acting from fear. Where councils considered consequences before making decisions. Where the strong protected the weak instead of crushing them. where betrayal was remembered not with vengeance, but with determination to do better. The humans had achieved something no weapon could have won. They had changed the galaxy not through force, but through example. They had shown that the greatest power was not the ability to destroy, but the ability to endure destruction and emerge stronger, kinder, better. And they had done it with a single word. General Do-Yun, long retired now, gave the last interview of his life to a young Torvan journalist who asked him what he thought humanity's legacy would be. He thought for a long time before answering, "We will be remembered as the species that taught the galaxy a lesson it desperately needed, not through violence, not through revenge, but through example, through patience, through the stubborn refusal to become what others feared we were." He smiled then, an old man's peaceful smile. "They called us dangerous. They were right, but not in the way they thought. We were dangerous because we showed them a better way. We were dangerous because we proved that strength and mercy could exist together. We were dangerous because we remembered, and we made sure they remembered too." The journalist asked one final question. "What would you want people to think of when they think of humanity?" Do-Hyun looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued to remember, continued to learn, continued to grow. I would want them to think of a species that was knocked down and got back up. A species that was betrayed and chose not to betray in return. A species that had every reason to hate and chose instead to hope. A species that proved, once and for all, that the measure of a civilization is not how it treats its friends, but how it treats those who have wronged it. He closed his eyes. I would want them to remember. And they did. They remembered forever.